Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing my June wrap-up, but I feel like I have to address some things first. Yes, I have dyed my hair. I don't know how well it's showing up on camera right now because it's actually a lot darker than what I initially wanted to film, so my hair's not looking as bright as it actually is. Two, I'm wearing a wrist brace now because I have overexerted the tendons in my hand from serving. I have a crap ton of books to get through. I read 14 things this month. Granted, a lot of them were manga and a graphic novel, but I have read a decent amount of novels this month, and even though it is summer and so I have a lighter class load, even though my one summer class is still a lot of work, I hate this class. I almost missed my midterm last weekend because the professor didn't have the date of the midterms in the syllabus, and she said she'd let us know. And then I logged in Sunday night. I was like, oh, you have to take your midterm by 11 o'clock tonight. I'm like, well, it's a good thing it's 8:30 and I have time to do it. So there's that. Yeah, but I also, part of the reason why I read a lot this month is because I co-hosted and I participated in readathons that were literally back to back. So there was like 2 weeks of straight reading. Anyways, let's jump into the books that I read. First off, I finished More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. This was a book that rolled over from my subathon TBR, and I will link my subathon vlog up here if you want to see what else I read and what happened. It's a very long vlog, so just be aware. This book, we follow our main character whose father has recently committed suicide, and it's him and the after effects of dealing with that. And there is this new procedure that someone can do where essentially they not necessarily erase memories, but they suppress them really well. And something with him looking into that. This does have LGBTQIA representation. I really don't want to say who it is or like what the representation is because I feel like that kind of really added to the story for me, was not really knowing much going into this other than it was an Adam Silvera book and of course it was going to be really sad. I liked this, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite. Not that Adam Silvera's writing was bad, it wasn't. I don't know, I just didn't gel very well with it. Didn't really care much for the story, but that's just because I'm not normally a contemporary reader, and this is a very contemporary book. I do have to say I liked kind of the plot twist in there that I totally did not see coming, and then we start getting more information about it. I really like that, and I like kind of the theme that it deals with, that you know, you should kind of unapologetically be yourself, and that trying to suppress or forget things that happened in your life doesn't mean it's gonna make your life better. In the end, it can actually screw up your life. And like, I really like the message that this book sent, and so I appreciate it for that, and I know this book means a lot to a lot of other people. Again, this book is not very much geared towards me, but I did enjoy it. I did end up rating it 4 stars. The next book I finished was The Awakened by Julian Cheek. I actually have a spoiler-free review for this because I was part of a blog tour that I will link up here if you want to watch it. I tried to be very, very nice in the review because it was part of a blog tour, so it was going to be shown in other places besides my channel. I was very critical about it, but not in a way of trying to be mean. But honestly, now that we're here at my June wrap-up, and I doubt they're watching this video, this book had a lot of potential, but it was not for me. I don't think it was very well planned out and put together. This is also a very short YA sci-fi book. It's like less than 300 pages, and honestly, it says sci-fi, but I would consider it kind of more fantasy than sci-fi. This book, we follow our main character, Sam, whose brother has recently died, and he is suddenly realizing that he's waking up in this other world where he has a life and people know who he is, and then, you know, dealing with the shitty home life after his brother's died with his parents. It has a lot of potential. I love books like this, especially when we have a character who's being thrust into a world that they have no recollection of anymore. I really love that stuff. However, I don't think this one was very well done. Like, it had a lot of potential, but I think it needed more work before being published, at least for me. I didn't really get much of a sense of this other world. Like, we got to meet the people, but I wanted to know more about the world, more about these people's cultures, like what exactly makes them different from the normal world. Also, there's a lot of vague language talked about. Like, he talks about the people are dressed familiarly, but they're dressed strangely, but I'm like, but what is it about their garb that makes them strange? There's just a lot of vague language in here that didn't help me really picture anything. Also, there's like the plot line of the dead brother, and I thought his brother was going to play a lot more into the storyline. Like, I was coming up with all these other like plot lines to go along with it that I was like, oh, I really hope this happens. Like, I would like to see how this plays out. And really, the brother's death doesn't play much into this other than the fact that Sam is being mistreated by his parents, and you know, he's grieving for his brother and trying to figure out how to live in a world without his sibling. And like, I get that, but for me personally, reading, I don't feel like it played much into this mission that Sam was supposed to be doing. Also, the timeline in here doesn't feel right. It makes them sound like he's been missing for years when he suddenly shows back up in this other world, when really he's only been missing for 14 days. So the time didn't add up for me. That's, like I said, this book had like a lot of potential, but it just kind of fell really flat for me. And I know this is the first book in a series, but I really don't think I will be picking up the next book when it comes out. There is one thing I do want to mention that I really did like about this book. There are these creatures that are kind of like animal guide type of thing. They're called Padme, and they show up when one of the people turns, I think it's 12 or 13. They suddenly show up and they're like connected. They have like a telepathy thing, and you know, it's really cool. And so it was really cool learning about them and getting to know more about them, and they look kind of like animals, but like crossbreed animals, and they can't survive without their person, so when their person dies, they die. I thought it was really interesting. And they don't have a gender. They are non-binary, which I thought was really cool. And they also don't identify as a singular entity. They are always referred to as we, and they refer to themselves as we, which I thought was really cool. So I really wanted to know more about the Padme and how they came to be and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just such a nerd, and I love world building. Like, world building is like one of the things I love most about fantasy, and I think that's why I like fantasy so much, is the world building and seeing how the different worlds work. And I just didn't get that with this book. I ended up giving this a 2 out of 5 stars. Next, I read volumes 5, 6, and 7 of My Hero Academia. I'm loving this series so much right now. Like, I cannot tell you how much I am enjoying this. It's a fun manga series. I would highly recommend it if you want to get into manga. It deals with a superhero society, and we follow our main character, Midoriya, who my hair color, I didn't realize until earlier, actually matches his hair color. Is he on any of these? Yeah. Like, look. Can you see? We're like kind of twins. Anyways, he is born without a quirk, and a quirk is essentially a superpower, and it's rare to be born without one. And so he's born without one, and he ends up getting some type of quirk, and it's kind of him getting accepted into this very prestigious superhero school and trying to figure out how to work a superpower and become a superhero, because that's all he's wanted his entire life. And I very much am enjoying this. I love this, and I think everybody should read it. Obviously, I can't really talk about what happens in these volumes because spoilers, but I ended up giving all of these 5 stars. Next, we're getting into the books that I read during Summer Readathon, which was a readathon I co-hosted. It dealt with both summer and Halloween themes, and I think we're going to do a second round around Halloween time. So the first book I finished was the graphic novel of Coraline by Neil Gaiman, and this is illustrated by P. Craig Russell. This was our group book for the readathon, and we were actually that Friday supposed to kind of watch it together and like live tweet about it. That didn't end up happening because 2 of the 4 co-hosts were actually out on vacations. I also worked Friday, and then Mayana at the end was just kind of like, I don't really want to watch it, so we didn't actually watch it, but it was still really cool because we ended up having a group chat for those participating in the readathon, and so we all got to chat about like what we were reading, and everybody got to share their thoughts on Coraline as they were reading it. The general consensus of everybody that was participating in the readathon and actually got around to reading the group book didn't like it as much as we thought we would. So, I didn't really like this as much as I wanted. I felt like this was a little young for me, and that's interesting coming from me because I really do tend to enjoy middle grade, but I don't know, I just didn't really like this, and I don't know if it's because I read it in the graphic novel format or what. Like, maybe should I try the novel format and see if I liked it better, but a lot of the other people participating in the readathon read the actual novel and didn't like it as much either, so I'm just gonna assume this is not for me. I did watch the movie, however, on my own, and I very much enjoyed the movie compared to the book. I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars. Next, I finished City of Fallen Angels. I have stated numerous times on my channel that I'm currently rereading the Mortal Instruments series so I can finally get caught up in Shadowhunters. And this was the next book I needed to read, and I have been putting this off because City of Ashes and City of Glass were just kind of a drain to get through. I mean, City of Glass wasn't that bad, but I was just kind of hesitant about going back into this because I haven't read these since high school, so it's been like a good 4 years since I've read any of these books. So going into this one, I was a bit hesitant, but I did pick this one up on audiobook. I didn't read very much of this like physically, so I listened to the audiobook, and I would highly recommend the audiobook. Ed Westwick narrates half of the audiobook, and if you don't know who Ed Westwick is, he played Chuck Bass on Gossip Girl, and I have been in love with him ever since. And I just love his voice. And I loved listening to it so much. And I have to say, through this reread, I really did enjoy this book. And initially when I read the 5 books of Mortal Instruments that I did read, I said City of Glass was my favorite because I really liked the ending, because technically the ending of City of Glass was supposed to be at the end of the series since it was originally supposed to be a trilogy, and then Cassie decided to add on and expand it. So I really like that, but now going through this reread, I have to say I think City of Fallen Angels is probably my favorite so far in the series. We get to delve more into Simon and what he's going through, and also there's a new bad guy that is always a fascinating mythological person. She's like a creature, but she's also a person to me whenever she's mentioned. So I really liked getting to see her like incorporated into this, and of course this brings back one of my favorite villains. I really love this, and I think this is probably my new favorite book of the ones I've reread so far. And this is also the only book of the 4 that I have reread that has been able to keep its 5-star rating. All of the other ones I have bumped down to 3 or 4 stars, but this one I kept at 5 because I actually still really enjoyed it, and I feel like I enjoyed it even more rereading it than I did the initial first time I read this. Next, I finished Kitchen Princess Volume 1 by Natsumi Ando. This is a manga series about our main character, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name because I can't say it, who gets accepted into this prestigious school, and she's even accepted into like the advanced class, and to be in an advanced class you have to have like a really like special skill, and hers is baking. Like she can bake like no other, and she specifically goes to the school because she's trying to track down this boy she met when she was little after her parents died, and he gave her some flan and he had this special spoon with the crest of this school in it, and she's going to try to find this boy. She's been looking for him since she was little, and so it's kind of her adventures going there, and she gets entangled in the lives of these 2 brothers. I read this a really long time ago, and I really remember enjoying it reading it. I really enjoyed this. I ended up rating this 4 out of 5 stars. I docked a star because there is some girl on girl hate, but I kind of gave it some leeway too because this book was published in English in 2008, so it was before we really saw this as a problematic aspect. Now we're getting into the books that I finished during Finish-a-thon. I finished Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This is my first adult thriller, and you know, I'm kind of trying to push myself to get out of the YA genre. Not that I don't have stopped enjoying YA, because I obviously haven't, but I kind of want to, you know, expand my horizons and see what else is out there that I like. So I picked this up because I've owned this forever, and also Sam picked it for me for my Emo Squad Picks My TBR, and I finally got around to reading it. This book is something else. It is so fucked and twisted, but it is so good. And I listened to this one on audiobook too. Highly recommend it. There are dual narrators that do a fantastic job, and I loved it. I was so enthralled in this. Holy cow, it was so good. Like, I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5 stars, and this is probably gonna be on like my favorites for the year so far. But I do have to say, I went into this knowing nothing about it, only knowing that it was a thriller. And so a lot of people say it's good to go in not knowing anything, because if you kind of know it or you know the plot twist, like I've been told, is like obviously not as good as like reading it, but I really liked it. Anyways, the only thing I'm really going to tell you is it's about our main character Nick, whose wife goes missing on the morning of their 5th anniversary, and that's all I'm going to say, and that's all you really need to know going into this. This was so good. I highly recommend everybody read it. I know the hype train on Gone Girl was like 10 million years ago, and I'm super late to it, but it was so good. And I did recently watch the movie as well, and I didn't enjoy the movie as much as I enjoyed the book. Next, I finished A Study in Charlotte. I have no idea where the dust jacket for this is. Like, I have no freaking idea what happened to it. But this is the first book in Brittany Carvalho's Charlotte Holmes series, and we follow our main characters, Charlotte Holmes and Jamie Watson, who are the descendants of the original Holmes and Watson, and they are going to this boarding school. They are then framed for murder, and they have to pair up and try to figure out who is framing them and who actually killed the student. This was really good. Like, I've owned this book for a really long time. Like, I still have the receipt from when I bought this. I bought this in 2016, and I just now read it. But I read this because, one, Rocky over at Blonde with a Book never shuts up about the series, and two, she picked it for Emo Squad Picks My TBR. Finally got around to reading it. I really enjoyed it. I love the characters, and Jamie is a precious cinnamon roll, and I cannot wait to pick up The Last of August because I need to know what freaking happens, and I highly suggest everybody pick this up if they have not read this because it was really good. And I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I finished was The Beauty That Remains by Ashley Woodfolk. This is a book that came out earlier this year, and I bought it like as soon as it came out. 1, because this cover is beautiful. 2, because Rhiannon from Crescent Moon Reads was reading an art copy of this and said there was panic attack rap in it, and she really liked it. And 3, because the author is freaking hilarious, and I love her. I follow her on Twitter. This book follows 3 different characters within Brooklyn, and they all intertwined because of this local band called Unraveling Lovely, and the band has fallen apart, and all our 3 characters are each dealing with a death in their life. 1 is a sibling, 1 is a boyfriend, and 1 is a best friend. And so they're all kind of dealing with those people no longer being in their lives. This book, the best way to describe it, and this is the way Ashley described it to me because I met her at North Teen Texas Book Festival, which I'll link my vlog up here if you want to see what I got up to and who I met. I met her and I had her sign my book, and she told me that, yeah, it's gonna like break your heart and everything, but towards the end it's gonna put it all back together, and it really does. And music plays a very, very big role in this book, and I loved the way the music played into this with each character in their own aspect and how it all comes together in the end, and I just really loved it. I like the panic attack rap. We also have a gay character. We have women of color. It's just an overall really good book, and I would highly recommend it to everybody if you want a book that deals with grief and that deals with music. It was just really well done, and I really loved it. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. I feel like I could have made it a 5-star, but I picked this book up on and off so sporadically between April and June that I didn't feel right giving it a 5-star because I didn't sit down and read it all the way through. Next, I finished volumes 8 and 9 of My Hero Academia. Again, this is just an amazing series, and I love it, and I need everybody to freaking read it, or at least watch the anime, because the anime is really good too. Can't really talk much about these because obviously they're way into the series, but I do want to say I gave volume 8 4 stars, and I gave volume 9 5 stars, and the reason volume 8 kind of dipped a little for me, and like I still enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as some of the other volumes, so that's why I gave it 4 stars, and volume 9 ended up getting 5 stars because within the school, which is UA, there are 2 superhero classes for the first years. There's Class A and Class B. There's no real difference between Class A and Class B, it's just, you know, where they divided the student number. But Class A has been getting a lot of recognition throughout all of the other volumes, and Class B kind of feels thrown to the wayside. In this new story arc, they are going to like a summer camp, like intensive training camp, and so it's all of the students, not just Class A but also Class B. And the events that unfold in this volume, we really do actually get to see a lot of Class B in action, and I very much enjoyed that. I was like, as much as I love all of the characters in Class A, I want to see more of Class B because I feel bad that they feel like they're lesser and they're always kind of pushed to the side. So it was nice kind of getting to see some of those characters shine in this volume, and I hope that continues in the rest of the volumes. And the last book I finished for June was My Life Next Door by Huntley Fitzpatrick. This book has been sitting on my shelf for God knows how long. I'm pretty sure I ordered this off of Book Outlet, and I bought it around the time there was kind of hype around this contemporary, which was a while ago. It was probably around the time I started BookTube, and I started BookTube in like 2014. This audiobook was available, and I finally decided, because one of my goals every year is I set myself a number of books that I need to read off of my TBR that have been on my TBR for a really long time. And so I was like, why not? I've been meaning to get around to this. I've put this book on several TBRs for readathons and I still haven't gotten around to it, so might as well. This book is a fluffy, cutesy YA contemporary set in summer, and we follow our main character, Sam. She is the daughter of a politician, and the family that lives next door is a bit of a mess from the outside. There's toys in the yard, they have a lot of kids, they're kind of loud, you know, stuff like that. And Sam's mother has always looked down on the Garretts, which is the family that lives next door, and Sam has for most of her life sat outside on the roof and watched the Garrett's life from her view. And finally, one day, one of the older children, Jace, who is Sam's age, comes over and starts talking to her, and romance ensues from there. Now, if you've been on my channel for any length of time, you know I am not a big fan of contemporary. A lot of times when I read a fluffy contemporary, I don't very much enjoy it. There has to be something special that makes me want it. I listened to this one on audiobook, which I think was part of the reason why I was able to finish it. I actually really enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to. I liked Samantha, and I really, really loved Jace. He's like this cute little boy that loves animals, and if you have anybody who loves animals, because I wanted to be a vet up until my sophomore year of high school, I was dead set on becoming a veterinarian. It's my soft spot. Like, I automatically like you. And I really liked him. I liked the story. I liked their relationship. I like watching everything kind of unfold. I liked getting to see Sam actually feel like part of a family. Like, her dad's not in the picture, her mom's never home because she's working on her campaign, and her sister has left for the summer to go stay in the vineyards with her boyfriend and some friends. So she's kind of there alone, and I really liked seeing her embrace this new family lifestyle, and especially something that she's never really known in such a big, open and happy family that the Garretts are. I really loved watching that unfold. And I have to say, as much as I loved that, the very end of the book kind of takes a darker twist towards something. And I didn't see it coming, but I liked it, and I liked the way Samantha confronts the event that happened and doesn't back down from her views. But I do have to say, with the ending, I kind of wanted a little more. I wanted some more fallout from the ending. I don't feel like the person was punished enough for what they did. But overall, I really, really enjoyed this. I like this way more than I thought I was going to. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. And now on to the books I'm in the middle of. I am currently in the middle of 4 books. So the first book is volume 10 of My Hero Academia. I only read about 50 pages of this, and I still haven't picked it up because I've got about a week break right now, which ends coming up before readathon starts, and I'm trying really hard not to get myself in a reading slump, and I kind of also don't feel like reading, so I'm giving myself kind of this week to break before readathon starts on Sunday. Next is Put In by Julie Murphy. I am loving this so far. This is the sequel to Dumplin'. We follow one of the side characters from Dumplin', which is Millie, and this is her book, and it's her senior year of high school. She's instituted this new rule of slumber parties every other Saturday, and it's also her forging a friendship with the former bad girl, Callie, who has recently been disbanded of all friends and is kind of floating in an area where she's not sure what's going on and how she feels. And so really, this book is more about female friendship. I mean, this also deals with Millie's romance with another character. And one of the main points that I think is part of what makes this book so good is, first off, Millie is fat, so there is fat representation in here. And she really plays against the views of what people initially think when they think of fat people. Like, they're fat, they're lazy, they're gross. But you've seen she's gone to fat camp for multiple years every summer, and she's tried. Her mom does diets for their whole family. It just paints fat representation in a really good way, and I love it. I don't think you should really take my word for it because I am not fat, but Michaela from my bookshelf, who is one of my dear friends here on BookTube, did an On Voices review of Put In, and I will link it up in here in the cards if there's still room. If not, it will definitely be linked down below, and I think everybody should watch it because it is very important, and she has a lot to say, and I think her opinion is worth way more than mine ever will be. Also, there is asexual representation in here, which I'm in love with. I read about 300 pages. The next book I'm in the middle of is Arusha and the End of Time by Rashni Charsky. This is the first book in the Pandava Quartet, and it is also the first book in Rick Riordan's new imprint for mythology to help support and get more publicity for authors of color and people writing own voices stories. So this deals with Indian mythology, and we follow our main character, Aru, who lights this cursed lamp and lets a demon walk the earth. And now she has found out she is one of the reincarnates of the Pandava brothers, and she now has to save the world, and she's also in Spider-Man pajamas, which, honestly, I really love this. I've listened to most of this on audiobook, and I really loved it. I thought it was very cute. It has a lot of the telltale signs of a Riordan novel. Crazy middle school aged kids running around not knowing what the heck to do, have to save the world. I read like 300 pages of this one. And the last book that I was in the middle of for June was Chevalier by Bree Liu. I really need to learn how to say her last name. This is a fantasy romance novella. It's only around 150 pages. She sent a free copy to me to read and review, and I'm sorry I'm taking so long to get around to it. Life is busy, and I suck when it comes to reading ebooks. I'm getting there. Like, I'm still trying. Like, I'm still reading it. Alright, so that is it for my wrap-up. Please let me know if you read any of these books down below, because I would love to know and chat with you guys. Do you agree with my opinions? Do you not? Let's chat it up. Until then, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Goodbye!